Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Smite Pro League. I'm Tom Battinger. That's going to be the best taco. We've got, well, the best of North America for you today. CLG and Splyce, Trifecta and Luminosity are what we're going to see today.
Some pretty tight competition, too, between all four of these teams because everybody's got to get up in those standings. And I think the big thing here for Splyce, of course, they're right there on the cusp of being considered for that top two competitive point for the standings. And if they're to fall here to CLG, I mean, that would be a huge resurgence for CLG. Yeah,
there's a ton of different things going on here. CLG has sort of floundered, and that's unexpected. Splyce has done the opposite, but succeeded, and that's kind of unexpected. Trifecta and Luminosity even have their own individual things going on, but let's zoom out and take a look at summer altogether real quick before we get into the nitty-gritty of today. Monday through Friday, you get the Smite Pro League. Monday is going to be a mix and match, but Tuesday through Friday, Europe and North America will be all split up. And then when it comes on Monday, that's what I always like to sort of lean on, that 10 a.m. Esports Weekly. Listen, if I got to be up that early, y'all got to be up that early. But real talk, jokes aside, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you, Taco, you put out your predictions there every week.
Oh, yeah. My predictions were pretty awful this week. So for future reference, you probably should base a little bit more towards Hindu and Agros because I have definitely fallen very far behind those guys from this week alone.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know you usually take the spice, take the gamble, and this past week we have seen a lot of that, though.
We've seen a lot of the gambles, but I didn't go for any of them. That's the problem. The one time I decided, I was like, you know what, I'll just go with what everybody else has said is the logical decisions, and well, look how far logic got me.
Stick to your guns. You said Artemis, I said Apwash. This is what she got wrong here, folks. Space Station and E United up on top. Splyce competing for those top two positions. And then Rival, of course, number 3 to Energy and Team Dignitas. I think the bigger story in Europe is Obey and Mouse Sports, both really improving there. Mouse actually taking Obey in just 2 games. But back to North America. Counterlogic Gaming, we're going to see them today. Versus Splyce, but then Trifecta and Luminosity. I mean, these two are also teams that are steadily improving.
And Luminosity, to me, has definitely encountered a lot more struggles during the summer split as opposed to the spring split. I think that some of those rookie moments are starting to shine through just a little bit more. We've seen some very impressive gameplay, though, out of Xbalanque. I think that he is certainly someone to still keep an eye on, but this is a really stiff matchup for them against Trifecta. I mean, with the addition of Paul, and plus we just saw Zapman coming back into the fray as well.
Yeah, Zapman, it was funny. Just as a side note, on Twitter, he posted his pentakill on Chernobog, and I mean, it looked great, and that was 1 week out of the Pro League, and I'm sure the decision was made elsewhere. But Mask responded to that tweet saying, I guess you're coming back. And then he was back in the next game. So I enjoyed that moment.
They knew what they were doing all along. I mean, we can never really know the true reasons that circulate around a team environment as to why they chose to keep Mitt Yankee in the starter role, hunter position. But whatever the choice is, I mean, it seemed to pay off a little bit there. Zapman looked pretty good up against E United, and I think that he's certainly looking to carry that over into his matchup today against Luminosity.
That should be a lot of fun. We actually get to be on the call for that one, excitedly enough. Right now, we're going to start off with Counterlogic Gaming taking on Splyce. And as I said, Splyce has really sort of put together their best players in one house, and I think that's helped them improve across the way. Counterlogic Gaming has had some issues. But Splyce, the boys there on your screen, like I said, all of them, plus Kabam, who's not pictured, their coach, have been staying together. And I think we've seen that communication in their gameplay.
I think that there's something to be said about having CycloneSpin and Divios now being able to perform on regular ping. Before, you had CycloneSpin over in the West Coast. You had Divios over in Canada, I believe, and they didn't always have that under 100 ping. And for their specific roles, too, that carries a lot of relevancy, especially for Cyclone.
The rest of the squad as well. Cyno and TheBest in the middle lane have looked really, really clean. Cyno has just elevated what TheBest has been able to do, and TheBest just has a very honest play style, I would say. He's out there. He has his god pool, and he rarely deviates from it, and that's totally fine. And he plays, I would say, cautiously aggressive, usually aggressive, but not quite reckless.
I think that for TheBest, he's one of those players, or I don't want to call it predictable, but you can kind of tell what he's going to do. It's just the hard outplay moments that he tends to go for, and that's where that cautious aggressiveness does tend to become a huge outplay factor, because if you go too in, then you just end up with Best trying to turn and burn you. But if you are able to pick your moments right, which I think that Homiefe is certainly someone that we could probably expect that from.
Sure. Yeah, I like how you said you struggle with the word predictable, because I'm with you. I think when you go against the Best, you know what he's going to do. Whether or not you can handle it is a different story. And I think that's kind of Splyce in a nutshell. Cyno's going to play the Arlong Shen jungle. Can you deal with it is a different story.
All you have to do, all Cyno has to do is land the appropriate setup, because Best is one of those people where I don't think he's going to miss off of that setup.
Probably
That's all
not.
he needs. He's mechanical in that way, and that has been one of Best bodes, no pun intended there, for quite some time. I mean, ever since he first came into the Pro League and way back in the day with that original Dignitas roster, he was always known for his mechanics being on point, and that is by far one of the best features you could ask for from a mid laner.
Yeah, our very own Anatoly played with the Best before, and only, as things to high praise for him. And then, talking about the Eager draft, the Eager lineup once upon a time, DJ Pernicus had a very setup-oriented jungle style and just let Best sort of do his thing. And Cyno, it's interesting. Cyno has those games where he can be the hard carry, but the conversation about Cynosaur has always been he's inconsistent or this, that, or third. When Cyno's not feeling it, he can just play setup man and let Best be Best. And I think that works out for Splyce. CLGaming across the way, a little bit of a different story. These guys are all, at this point, 5 Hollywood superstars. I think fineokay at one point last year, fineokay now in his sophomore year, last year was a rookie, and at this point, I mean, fineokay is a star in his own right.
He's definitely come into his zone ever since his initial debut into the Pro League. I think that fineokay, because of the fact that he's constantly playing against all this SPL competition, you're kind of forced to learn it or be kicked out.
Yeah, pretty much. Hurriwind has been a big part of this. You were mentioning Homiefe. The H&H, Homiefe and Hurriwind have been a very important jungle mid synergy. We talked about Cyno and the Best, and honestly, a lot of the time, Cyno is just making sure the Best can be the best. These guys take turns, whether it's Hurriwind or Homiefe. Hurriwind, last time we saw him, had one of the best performances we've ever seen him have, and he's capable of that. But then other times, Homiefe wants to play hard carry and takes a Camazotz and just does his thing, right?
I think there's going to be a lot of leaning towards this Giannis, because both Best and Hurriwind, I think, have a fairly similar god pool. They both really love to play this Giannis. They both also are tending to be a little bit more of that utility style of mid laner at times for their teams, and I think that both sides have hard carries that they know they can fall back on just in case they want to take a little bit more of the utility base side.
I've always preferred Hurriwind on some of those utility picks, but like I said, last time we saw Hurriwind, he told everybody that he was a hard carry mid lane mage. He went 10-1. It was scary.
It was some crazy performance.
Yeah. Transcendent stuff. Let's get into the game. Picks and bans here for match number 1 between CLG and Splyce, the latter who will have the first pick here, and of course the first ban. Splyce, like we said, they prioritize kind of, I wouldn't say odd things. This is one of the things where Best's god pool stays the same, meta be damned, and right now the meta's treating him well. Gods like Giannis, gods like Raijin are really, really popular. Thoth does well. He does have the Scylla. That's kind of anti-meta, but we'll see if that comes out. First ban's out, the Giannis by Splyce. Love it. Guan Yu just because he's the guy. And CLG, ban out both of the characters that we've seen Cyno do very well on. Naja for the hard carry and Arlong for the setup, and Cyno's going to have neither.
I almost feel like both of these sets of bans, though, were incredibly predictable from both sides. These teams have been able to study each other for quite some time, and if you're Splyce, you know for a fact that Cyno's just trying to lean for the Erlang Shen, for the Najas, because those are what Best loves to play off of.
If you told us to write down the bans, we probably would have nailed these.
I think we would have had those 100%.
Xbalanque, your first pick overall. CLGaming going for the Assassin Serqet. Should be interesting. I always love the early Serqet pick next to the Terra. That's scary because Serqet is an anti-healer and a tank killer, but those are on the side. She's just a good assassin. So she sits there and sort of shapes what Splyce wants to do.
I think that the Serqet is also to try and maybe deter Best from wanting to go for that raw pickup, because that is another guy that I think we've seen Best play a lot of. But here's that Scylla that you were just mentioning Best having in his arsenal.
I really like this pick, especially next to the Athena. I mentioned that it's a little bit anti-meta because it doesn't have any early game. Mage's Blessing has helped everybody, but Agni, I think, is the result of that. Scylla has still some struggles in the early game, but Best makes it work. And I always say that. Meta is something to be looked at and followed, but if you can make something weird work, do it. And Scylla, not completely weird, and certainly a big deal for the best.
With this current composition that Splyce have going, I'm a little scared for both of these teams. I mean, this is so back and forth, though, just looking at it already. Athena and Xbalanque, perfect pairs alongside of the Scylla. Athena, of course, you know that taunt's going to be exceptional setup for that. I'm a monster. Even the crushes and the roots, so you just don't want to get trapped in that CC chain. Also, the Xbalanque, if you get taunted during that Darkest Night, you might get stunned unintentionally.
Yeah, that's a big deal. One of the few ways that you can force the opponent to get hit by the Darkest of Night. Bacchus Intoxicate also, which we have seen some. Bacchus has risen.
Bacchus. He's on the rise. I think that he's certainly one of those heavy anti-healer gods that teams tend to want to go for just in case, because his setup is pretty strong. It's just that laning phase that is so abysmally rough that tends to sway teams away from him. But CLG trying to fight fire with fire, taking the Muzen Cobb into the Xbalanque.
One of Snoopy's favorite characters. It's been a while since we've seen the AMC, but recently players have stayed away from him. But with a dual lane, I always felt like Muzen Cobb is better when you have a Guardian there next to you, so the support can help him out. Worth noting also, Alpha Jackal recently tweeted out Muzen Cobb. Alpha Jackal coach of Rival across the way in Europe. So I think there's some rumblings in the pro scene. I would say expect to see more of the B-Man.
Well, AMC has never been an awful pick selection choice. I think that the main reason why we've seen such a lack of him in Season 5 is simply because the dual lane tends to have two people in it. Your support is normally right there alongside of you, and so AMC doesn't really have as much potency to just run at you, spamming you with his slows and with those bees and just trying to keep you disarmed. That way he can be the one poking you out nonstop. But both of these drafts so far, the Chang'e to round it all off, Splyce, they're going tanks straight into the burst.
Yeah, this is Splyce is a really interesting draft. Late game, without a doubt. Splyce are looking for the long one. CLG, on the other hand, they do have some late game characters, but this is more of a mid to late game. But make no bones about it, both of these teams are looking for the longer excursion. Taco, how you feeling about this one?
It's so volatile, I think, with both of these compositions.
I won't force you.
You can see where it works on both sides, and you can also see where it might fail miserably.
This is exciting. Splyce has been on the up and up. CLG facing adversity. Who comes out on top? I have no idea. Excited to watch this one. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Taco. Finch and Toli here to break down this exciting set between CLG and Splyce. Splyce are kind of on the rise here, Toli. Right. Splyce, if they win this, they might be cementing their spot up in the top 3. CLG supposed to be that other contender.
That's very true. Splyce doing a lot of work there against Space Station Gaming in that last week. That sneaky Titan rush where they had that distraction. I believe it was onto Cyno in the mid lane, and then the rest of the team just barreled down the solo lane Phoenix side. Beautiful sneaky tactics out of Splyce. They got the mechanics, they got the strategies, and that's what they got him here in the high standings of the North American SPL.
Well, who do you all think is going to win there in Mixer Chat? Go ahead and let us know by voting now. Are you going to be going along with the Chang'e Muzen Cobb team or the Nike squad? A lot of interesting picks here on both sides of the table, Toli.
It's very interesting to see how these two are going to battle each other, because at one point you got a lot of mobility and damage, and other you got resiliency and sustain. So it's all about how these teams itemize and how they progress through the early stages.
Well, let's go ahead and get right into those early stages. The game is just about ready to get underway between these two top North American teams. And Snoopy on the Muzen Cobb, an excellent boxer is this AMC, going up against the Xbalanque. Maybe a chance to try and punish him early here. It feels like Muzen Cobb with those hives, like you heard talking about, able to get that disarm on, the slows. He has a lot of tools to try and win the 1v1 if they're permitted it.
This is what Splyce have been doing consistently against Space Station Gaming set. They would look for a 3-man invade on the speed, which shut down Anister, but this game they're doing the same exact thing. However, pretty sure Cyno is to be getting his own speed buff, or stripping away the enemy speed, but Homiefe recognizing this. He's just getting his own on the opposite side.
They're just going to basically end up trading these ones out at this point here, Toli, and there's really no one who can come down and stop it. So this is CLG recognizing that Splyce likes to do this. Splyce are going to come grab their own red buff. Looks like purple's going to get taken away by Jigz, so a ton of action early on in these camps. And Toli, I thought we would start seeing this now that we're starting to get a little bit more comfortable in Season 5, that we're starting to expect people to be at certain places. Now invades are kind of at their strongest.
It's all about how you shut down some of these squishy mage targets in the solo lane. Chang'e can't really fight at level 1, but an Artio at level 1 is also a little tricky and weird. fineokay just looking to stack up that Warrior's Blessing, even whether it's against the Guardian jungle. Not a very common theme in the North American SPL. That's more of a Cherio thing.
This is a little bit uncommon, especially the Artio. We don't see her there a lot, but Homie wants to go an aggressive sprint. Already been used. Cyno forced to use A, gets here early, does have the dash, so might have a chance to get out. Divios, though, could certainly be in trouble himself as Homie continues to pump the autos in, but both members of Splyce managed to survive the early aggression.
That Cobra's Kiss disrupted the beam from Cyno, and then the perfect Death Bane. If that Aegis wasn't active just at the nick of time, that extra bonus damage would have ended the life of Cyno.
Cyclone is low, Cyclone's dead, Snoopy gets first blood over in duo. Great wall from Jigz.
That's what you got to do with a Terra on level 2. You just apply the stun, and Snoopy getting the better end of the AMC versus the Xbalanque matchup. Sometimes
that's so scary.
You just got to let minions enter the tower line. It's not the end of the world to lose, what, like 12 gold out of 18? Like, not that big of a deal.
But I mean, totally, this has got to be one of the worst hunters to give an early first blood to, the Muzen Cobb. I mean, you usually want to try and keep this pick down because he's not very mobile. I mean, yes, he has the movement speed, but he can't like jump or leap or dash. Already, though, an early kill to help him out.
And the thing is, Splyce is probably not prepared for this AMC Terra combination with Mage's Blessing dealing extra ability damage as opposed to the extra basic attack. Snoopy can easily clear the wave and poke the opposition at the same time with the honey. And looking for more after that pressure in the dueling, gonna even be rewarded with the purple buff.
You saying that they don't have a ton of practice up against the AMC Terra dueling here in Season 5?
Definitely not. Especially with the Mage's Blessing. I don't think that many teams have been experimenting with Mage's Blessing in Hunter position. Even with the Ulers, you're still looking for the Hunter side of things, not the Mages.
Well, the aggression is on as CLG want to come strip away this red buff. The best is low, as is Cyno. Crush is going to hit several members. Sprint comes out in response. CLG, though, get what they came for, and they're on the retreat.
CycloneSpin freezing the wave, needs to find a way to catch back up. He's 2 levels behind Snoopy. Make that about 1 to 1.5 as he just now hits the level 3 marker. But Snoopy getting his own red buff, going to be able to secure their own purple, is still going to create that big separation between the Xbalanque out of CycloneSpin.
And this is a great early start from CLG because you talked about it. Splyce has really been putting a lot of emphasis on these early jungle invades, on trying to build these small leads by being able to out-rotate, out-communicate you. But CLG have done a better job of that this game, repeatedly invading the red buff, repeatedly being there to counter the speed buff invade that Splyce looked for early, and it's net them a very quick 1,300 gold lead.
And both of these teams are coming off some hot victories from the previous sets. Splyce finding the 2-1 victory versus Space Station Gaming. You know they got to be feeling great about that one. Then CLG finding a 2-0 against Luminosity, where Hurriwind was playing the Giannis, just popping off every single moment of the game and getting the MVP, rightly so.
I believe those were the highlights we saw in our pregame talking about him. Was those exact plays on that Giannis, where he really just had one of his better games that we've seen from him. And Hurriwind capable of doing that at any particular moment. Really, anyone on CLG is. They're just a team of all-stars here, and their record, I think, does not indicate their talent level, as Cyno might be in a little bit of trouble. Homie has the ambush, is going to jump in once he sees the path Cyno takes. He wants to be here for this speed buff spawn, but that's just about all his cooldowns committed.
That's true. Homiefe was not in range for the last breath, but now Cyno doesn't have the dash. He could be in a lot of trouble. He's relying on the best to get in position. Cyno using that Minotaur from the speed buff to absorb any sort of Cobra's Kisses.
But it's not just the best. Final Judgment is here, and it deletes him. Hurriwind made his rotation over. So did fineokay. Drops the ultimate onto the best. Evade and punishes there. Double kill for Hurriwind in the mid lane. CLG off to a roaring start.
fineokay with a hot rotation. Waxing Moon right onto the best to prevent any sort of assistance. Cyno had no more abilities, realistically, to defend his own speed buff. And he relied on the best to make some sort of rotation. But man, that final judgment from Hurriwind, doesn't matter if he's on the Giannis or on the Thoth, he's making the plays happen.
Already level 7, highest in the game is Hurriwind on this Thoth pickup. And as scary as it is to give an early kill and lead to an Muzen Cobb, it might be even more scary to give it to the Thoth, especially the way Hurriwind's been playing. He clearly is just hot right now. I mean, he was feeling it in their earlier set on the Giannis, feeling it here too, and you just don't want to mess with a player like of Hurriwind's caliber when he's clearly feeling it in that rhythm.
And a Guardian in the jungle that gets shut down like this, Cyno might be thinking about ways to get back into the game. That's why he's heavily investing into CLG's jungle side, looking for some back camp invades.
Is there like a way for him to switch into an assassin or anything? Is that a thing we do or have? Oh, no. That's rough then.
He's not a GM.
That's rough then.
He doesn't have GM access like that.
Well, then, yeah, he's going to be as this Artio still, and it's just going to be rough. I mean, Homie's going to continue to do exactly what we've seen him him do, pressure him around these camps, Anatoly, be able to out-secure him, out-trade him in those jungle fights, and trying to get a little bit more control out of this Cyno, out of this Artio pick, I imagine. So far, that has not worked.
Trying to back, but it's going to be Homiefe right around the corner, looking for the last breath, potentially missing the Cobra's Kiss, but it doesn't matter.
Defender of Olympus comes out. Best and Divios are both here, but already ambushing away is Homie. So able to come in and force Cyno back relatively freely. Homie can now just head back to mid lane, continue farming, while Cyno, on the other hand, must go back to base.
Not only did they get Defender of Olympus, but the darkest of nights from CycloneSpin leaves a lot of to be desired for the rest of CLG to make offensive plays like this. Final Judgment onto the best. Just target practice at this point. He doesn't even want the kill. He just wants to get best low enough, daring him to step up close enough, because one Thoth dash and then maybe one out of the 3 hieroglyphic assaults, it would be enough to finish the remainder of Best's health pool.
He's definitely in that kill threshold and does indeed have to back. The rest of CLG now going to come strip this purple buff away from Splyce. They're here for the spawn of red as well. This pressure's unrelenting from CLG. Aror has to dash away. There's no answer from the Splyce composition to all this early pressure.
fineokay going to secure the blue buff from Divios, actually, using the Waxing Moon versus the ultimate from the Nike. Just not enough comparable damage, because you can also apply a stun to the Nike the same time that you get the last hit. Hurriwind made a play onto Cyno, but his dash is down, and that's why the spread from Splyce is full force.
Taunt comes out. I'm a monster land. The Best finds the first kill for Splyce and puts down Hurriwind. That was much needed to slow his farm down. Best not going to be able to find anything off the reset, but that one kill by itself certainly going to work for him.
And trying to make a play and trying to assist his jungler by continuously shutting down Cyno was a good mindset, but didn't really respect the fact that there was a counterplay potential. Splyce not giving up and throwing in the towel quite yet. They know when they have a playmaking opportunity, and they latch onto it.
Great play in Best in the mid lane, but let's take a look back over towards dual lane. Snoopy elected to go with this early Soul Eater. That's going to be his stacking option in terms of lifesteal. And on a Muzen Cobb, more than just about anybody, I mean, this feels like a great pickup, right? He's going to be so ability-based. He's going to be getting a ton of healing from that.
And the thing is, that with the recent 5.9 buff changes, keep in mind that these players are still playing on 5.9 despite the patch going live at 5.10 earlier this week. Going from 10% ability lifesteal to 15% makes this item a little more enticing, so it synergizes very well with the Mage's Blessing. You're using your beehives, you're using your honey, you know, the swarm, the bee swarm rather, and that's the synergy that you're getting off with not just the Mage's Blessing, but the Soul Eater for the lifesteal. You're dealing the damage and getting sustained at the same time.
And it's so interesting because it's very close to the same cost. I believe they're both 2,300 gold, and you're getting a little bit more upfront power from it, totally. I mean, right when you finish it, it's a bigger power spike for this for a Muzen Cobb. Now, CycloneSpin probably going to come out a little bit better later on, but right now, Snoopy in a great position as Jigz actually trades out relatively well with the Muzen Cobb. Meanwhile, fineokay in trouble. The knockup does land. The root is here as well. Double stun comes out from fineokay, but he was still rooted. Can't quite chase him underneath the tower, so he'll be fine, but Homiefe is not going to stop. He's still going aggressive. Last breath on the CycloneSpin. Catches him with the last breath in the middle of the dash. CycloneSpin. We're going to have to see you 20 seconds from now because Homiefe's on fire.
Just doing a great job grouping up in the dual lane, surviving in the soul lane. CLG getting the better end of both worlds. Stun onto Aror, crippled into the root. Needs to find the angle, but it gets intercepted. Jigz catches that one out, allows for more damage. The dots are ticking. Aror leveling up to avoid the lethal damage.
Somewhere below 30 HP, right around there is where Aror was, so that was about as close as it could ever hope to be. Just barely not enough to get that one from Snoopy, but it's just going to keep getting scarier. When it rains, it pours, man, and CLG have all this early pressure. Now, Splyce do have the late game Scylla if they can make it there. Xbalanque into an Athena taunt. That's great setup. They just have to make it through this early rush from CLG, it feels like.
I don't think CLG are going to let go of the pressure anytime soon because we were talking about the Soul Eater from Snoopy, but look what he got afterwards. The Talaria boots. He really wants to extend this early game advantage. He doesn't really care about the 40 power from Warrior Tabai when he can get all this mobility from the Talaria boots instead. Going from 25% movement speed of Talaria boots compared to the 18% whether it's Ninja or Warrior, that's making more plays in general for CLG or being able to escape from the clutches of Splyce.
I love this build from Snoopy so far on this Muzen Cobb. I really do. This is a classic example of not just building the best item right now, perhaps, but building what's best for this god. And certainly making the Muzen comp pick look strong here early after getting that early kill. Now the red buff is spawning, and CLG want to be here for it. Homie and Hurriwind on the right side. Snoopy dropping down the stinger on Aurora on the left. The taunt does come out into the crush, so the best is there with the I'm a Monster. Jigz gets removed from the playing field. Aurora in a little bit of trouble on the backside too, but Snoopy brought down to half HP. Hurriwind hits the long distance stun, but cannot finish off the best.
You know, Homiefe didn't want to use that ultimate on the support, but he will. Snoopy gets deleted actually from Divios' rotation. Cyno trying to make it happen. He dashes into Homie, but Homie with a great defensive Cobra's Kiss.
Wow, that's so crazy that kept CycloneSpin from being able to finish off that kill. Now Homie's on his way out, but Divios still wants to try and find fineokay. Best has returned to the battlefield and will continue to chase. Defender of Olympus is here, but Hurriwind goes aggressive and is able to kill Best. They are going to dive the tower and find fineokay. It's a bloodbath here on the battleground of the gods. Divios is low, has to get away because Hurriwind is still trying to fight.
Not going to be able to apply the stun, but man, after all that action, Cyno, Best falls, and I think it's going to be a 2-for-2 at the end of the day once Jigz respawns.
But finally, Splyce are fighting back on these invades, and they did a great job of it here. Specifically, Best finding a great individual play to get the crush damage. Well, not individual. Aurora had a good taunt too, but crush into I'm a Monster to be able to set that kill up. But I mean, what can you do when Homie and Hurriwind are hitting the way they're hitting right now?
And the thing is, keep in mind, these team fights early game from Splyce actually help them because of the Stone of Binding from Aror, whereas Jigz is invested into the Gauntlet of Thieves. Takes a little bit of time to get that aura and more protections to make him more resilient. Only sitting at 3 stacks currently. It's going to take quite a while to be online.
And all that extra penetration, even once that Gauntlet of Thieves is there, is going to be even better. This is kind of an Aurora special to go with the Stone of Binding so early on. In fact, Cyno has picked one up himself too. They're going to be gaining, with all the control, they can apply a ton of pen, just send out to the rest of the team. So they'll be in an excellent spot here to keep this one going, or to keep these early fights going. Yes, they're still a little bit behind. Homie's a little bit ahead of Cyno right now. Hurriwind a little bit out in front of the best, but everywhere else they're just about even. In fact, Divios a little bit ahead of fineokay. They just have to hold on a little bit longer because this gold lead is only about 2,000, hasn't really grown.
Oh, Divios using the ultimate defensively, trying to get Homiefe away from any sort of shenanigans, getting the left side oracles. No possible contention for the Skull Fury because it's all about this red buff, and CLG won it.
Blink in from Homie. Best already been removed. That was a big part of the last team fight that will not get to be here this time. Walls land on a Divios. Root comes out as well. fineokay, Homie are right here to follow up, but they don't need to. They got the kill, and they're ready to fall back.
No beads, unfortunately, for the best, and he didn't proc his I'm a Monster for the CC immunity, and only being level 11, there's no Aegis after the fact to survive. Great timing out of CLG to get their 8th kill of the game.
Gold Fury now being looked at. CLG have pretty much control here. Aurora has gone in too far all alone. fineokay gets the last hit. Final Judgment expended by Hurriwind wasn't quite necessary, so they won't have their best confirmed, but a Muzen Cobb not so bad either. He's got a ton of ability damage.
But that was 2 ultimates invested into a support. Hurriwind and Jigz no longer with it. Cyno trying to buy time because if Aurora responds within the next 12 seconds, he has Defender of Olympus to turn this fight around.
CycloneSpin actually dashes back towards Homiefe, and this is going to mean both the Aegis being used and the last breath is going to spread. He does end up falling. I'm a Monster doesn't land. A great juke back from Homie to get a kill on the Cyclone and still be alive. Divios, though, is here to hunt him down and will smash him right in the face. That is going to be a 1-for-1 trade, at least on this part of the engagement.
Aror used his ultimate to get in. Taunts Jigz into the rush. The crush combination of the root. Jigz able to double dash away. And it's up to fineokay and Divios to turn these fights around.
fineokay may have just saved the back end of that fight. That was a huge ultimate from him, stunning several members of Splyce. But, importantly, Gold Fury not able to be pulled there by CLG. Splyce force their way back in and get them off of the objective.
A great team fight from CLG. They get their 10th kill of the game, and it's Splyce that want to try to look for the action to get these kills for an additional halo out of Nike. You get the 10 kill marker, and then all of a sudden you're getting extra movement speed and a damage from all your abilities.
Snoopy now building in the pen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like Crusher here even. I mean, that passive
Definitely.
has got to work
It's all
really
about,
well with this.
It's all about the abilities out of Snoopy. That's what
yeah.
he's going for at this point. Not rushing the Crusher, going for the lifesteal option from Soul Eater because it takes 75 stacks to come online.
It's just like Devo Gloves, just better with abilities.
That's true, and AMC works very well, especially how important it is to cripple some of these key Splyce members. Cyno wants to get in the thick of things, so does Aror. You can catch the Athena mid-dash and prevent the taunt follow-up.
We've seen him be very strong already here this game, Snoopy, level 14, and it is indeed going to be that Crusher, a big power spike that he's just hit. Meanwhile, CycloneSpin kind of trying to match it with the Ick Vial, a bit of a cheaper item that works as bridge to help him still get a lot of key stats he's going to need. So Cyclone going to be strong in his own right, though not quite matching that same level Snoopy's putting out.
And honestly, the way teams are handling the Athena is just literally blow her up as soon as she dashes in for the taunt. And this was something that CLG were banking on. After the first pick, Xbalanque from Splyce, it was CLG that picked up the Serqet and Terra. They could have picked up Serqet and Athena if they really wanted to, but this is an anti-Athena strategy that they're trying to blow out of proportion.
We've seen some really good itemization items come in too, like the Spirit Robe, so that the target that she does initially taunt isn't going to be nearly as easy for them to blow up as well. So, I mean, I think you're right. There have been some good itemization choices to respond to the Athena since she's so strong right now, as CLG have started to group around this Gold Fury pit. There's a Sentry Ward right on top of it. Looks like that one coming away as Splyce, so they certainly know what's going on, but CLG are ready to move off it.
17 minutes into the game, and the action finally slowing down.
Finally, yeah.
After just a bloodbath in the first 15 minutes or so, trying to recollect themselves, you know, need a little bit of a breather.
But this gold chart's so important. Not Splyce, CLG go up to this lead about 4.5 minutes into the game, but Splyce have plateaued it for like 13 minutes at this point. They've done a really good job of not letting CLG run away with this. This is why the fights on the red buff have been so important, stopping them from getting the Gold Fury. Yes, CLG are ahead, but they've been there for almost the whole game. Splyce have stalled them.
This could be where the turning point happens to CLG to blow it wide open. This level 16 of Muzen can definitely burn the Gold Fury if left unchecked. Yeah. 2-level advantage for Snoopy, which very heavily prefers the Muzen, playing it very frequently in Season 4.
It looks like CLG have given up on this repeat red buff invade, at least on this spawn. Splyce able to rotate in and grab that one, no problem. In fact, Cyno blinking in and engaging on the Snoopy. He's all alone here, though. There's no immediate follow-up, or rather there is, with the Defender of Olympus coming through. They do force out the beads and the Aegis. Cyno has the damage to delete the Hunter. What a play from the jungler.
Well calculated from Splyce. They had every member calculated on the mini-map, and with the Defender of Olympus, that 1v1 quickly turning into a 2v1. Aror, though, in a lot of trouble.
Aror does end up getting caught out. Earth and Fury comes out from Jigz, but Aror is safely disengaged. Now with the Sentinel of Zeus, Cyno is going to try and hunt down, or rather, Divios is going to try and hunt down Homiefe with Cyno's help. Last Breath comes out, but CycloneSpin finds it with the auto. Splyce now turning this game around a little bit, and now they're the ones looking for the red buff invade.
Jigz going to root out Cyno. Hurriwind, keep in mind, he still has Final Judgment to get the damage off in the mid lane. fineokay finds Aror.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty easy matchup there for fineokay up against the level 13 Athena, and does indeed bring him down. Now he's rotating into the Gold Fury pit. Doesn't have a whole lot of mana available and does get rooted out as well. Jigz lands the root, but Divios and CycloneSpin going aggressively. Final Judgment brings both carries very low. That changes the whole team fight. Splyce have got to retreat.
They're trying to. fineokay not going to allow that to happen. Cyno uses his Aegis. He's still very quick with the speed buff. Divios trying to body block whoever he can in front of him, and Jigz not going to be able to secure any squishy member, but still CLG able to try something, because during that whole scuffle, Snoopy respawned and he's burning this Gold Fury.
Divios is here, but he's the only one around. Sentinel of Zeus already been used. He jumps up, but CLG get the Gold Fury. That was great timing, just wasn't enough. But I mean, how important is Hurriwind's snipe? I know he doesn't kill anyone there totally, but that changed the whole fight.
His accuracy has just been on point. He's feeling himself since that game against Space Station Gaming. He used his ultimate in the mid lane against TheBest around like level 7 or something like that, knowing he wasn't going to get the kill, just daring TheBest to come back into it. And Splyce have an answer to the Gold Fury. It's going to be the Fire Giant.
Well, it looks like Homie recognized this is happening. This is not going to be stolen away for free. They do have I'm a Monster, pretty good confirmed, but Hurriwind has Final Judgment available too. They drop it. They're just trying to bait them in for the fight. They managed to lock down Jigz on the Flames, and Divios manages to track down the B. Homie, though, is still rotating on the backside. Hurriwind finds Divios. fineokay is in here pushing as well, too, to try and catch them out.
Oh, beautiful double Cobra's Kiss, diving the backline. Homiefe applies the poisons, eliminates CycloneSpin. 3 dead Splyce members. Hurriwind trying to chase down Cyno. Great stun from Jigz, a double stun from Hurriwind. It's a 3-on-1 as they chase the bear.
This is just going to continue to get worse for Splyce. Tracking him down is Homiefe getting the last necessary hit. Fire Giant, a desperation call it felt from Splyce. They tried to get off it cleanly, but no chance. CLG punished, and now it's theirs.
So it looked like a desperation call, but it was actually a tactic to take out Snoopy. This is the one disadvantage a Muzen has. He has a lot of mobility once you max out the hives, giving you 25% additional movement speed. You add the Talaria boots, you're adding a whole bunch of on top, but you don't have any gap closing. No dash, no jump. There's no Giannis portals to save the Muzen. You just dive him and go all in. That was the mindset from Splyce, and they calculated it. They executed it correctly, but yet again, Hurriwind coming in clutch with a double hit on his final judgment. He clips out 2 members, I believe it was Divios and Aror. Divios gets instantly annihilated, and then the chase just begins. Homiefe with a nice cleanup. The blink through the mid-wave, narrowing and weaving his Cobra's Kiss like Angelina Jolie through Wanted, cleaning up the team fight.
Yeah, somehow Homie knew how to curve the bullet there and was indeed able to find that setup for that double kill, and Splyce definitely get punished. Totally, I'm with you on the call. I understand the idea. I mean, they look at the Fire Giant, and that whole time Snoopy's getting collapsed on. The rest of CLG's focused on the Fire Giant, but it cost them a little bit too much. They do take a bunch of damage from it. They do have to walk through that fire field, and CLG, just with excellent individual play, are able to punish them perfectly afterwards. Now, they have Fire Giant. They've got a 7,000 gold lead as well, and plenty of towers to still go take as well.
And honestly, I like the idea from both teams because Splyce, they have a consistent strategy. They're executing, but they're just undervaluing the real effect from Jigz' Earthen Fury. If they can isolate Snoopy, that's all fine and dandy, but you gotta rest assured knowing that CLG is gonna punish you for committing onto the Muzen. Going forward.
In trouble here. He's been already caught out. CycloneSpin is low too. Snoopy takes Aror down very, very early. CycloneSpin is barely still alive, but now Divios is in some trouble on the right-hand side. fineokay going to continue to hunt him down, but he is able to jump away.
Oh, he actually jumps into the best, and it spread the beast. Hurriwind identifies this, might be looking for a cheeky cleanup.
He certainly is still playing aggressive here, Totally, as the Tier 2 tower gets crumbled down. It's only 4 members to defend Best. Has to go back to the fountain. They have an opportunity to move in. Sentinel of Zeus to force everybody back. Also drops off the Cursed Donkey, it would appear, but Divios is just too easy of a target. He has to jump away.
Trying to make it happen to Cyno, but he gets pulled back in with the last breath. He needs to survive. He baits it out for the Scylla ultimate, but it's just not enough damage. Left side Phoenix being looked at. Splyce are on the defensive.
And CLG are on the aggression. They take down the Phoenix on the left-hand side. Cyno falls as well. At this point in the game, it feels like CLG are able to just walk into the store and grab whatever they want from the shelves. No one's there to play security, at least not on Splyce's side. Tier 2 tower certainly could be in trouble.
And this is where the team fight starts swinging around. Aror, remember, he had the Stone of Binding while Jigz was still stacking the Gauntlet of Thebes, but because of the delayed start of the Thebes, Aror still stacking it up, doesn't have that double physical magical protection aura for him or his teammates, whereas Jigz has had that for a long time, even going for Shogun's Kusari, giving that extra boost of attack speed.
And you gotta wonder, I mean, are they getting enough out of this Artio? We saw one nice play between Cyno and Aror where they commit very hard on the Snoopy, and they actually get a pretty clean pick, but other than that, Cyno has not been able to do nearly the work that Homie has, diving onto the backline carries and eliminating them very early on. He's been almost like another frontline presence for them instead of the backline diver.
And that's what he's trying to do on the Guardian. It's just not his style from what we see. Normally he plays the Erlang Shen, the Taunter, the Blink, or the Naja, trying to make the plays happen, but he's trying to, extend the God pools of CLG heading into the conclusion of Week 3 as we nearly approach the second half of the split.
Well, Splyce are in position around the Gold Fury. This could try and mitigate some losses, but they're not ready to start burning this just yet. Cyclone turns toward it. Two-man taunt comes out from Aror. They want this fight. Earthen Fury comes out. A big ult comes out from fineokay. Final Judgment into the Aegis from CycloneSpin, so he will survive, but not long enough. Homiefe hunts him down. Double kill now as the best ends up falling as well. Aror forced to back. Still has the Defender of Olympus, but now Divios is getting tracked down. He ends up getting stunned, ends up getting controlled and deleted. Hurriwind finds that kill as well. Only Cyno and Aror still standing.
I don't even know if Splyce can hold on to this game much longer because I think CLG is going to go for the throat. Fire Giant Sunshine is up in less than a minute, but the way CLG are positioning it down the duo lane, I don't think that they're going to wait much longer for that objective. They want to go for the game-ending one.
They certainly are coming in to try and make this happen. Totally 5v2. Cyno and Aror, the only two to try and keep this Titan standing for Splyce, but CLG are burning it just too quickly. Titan now down to about half HP. They've got Hurriwind on the right-hand side, but everyone else is focusing the main objective to win the game. CLG take game 1 over Splyce.
Great performance, 20-9, less than 26 minutes worth of action. CLG continuing their hot streak thus far.
CLG looking great, and to be fair, Splyce on a bit of a hot streak of their own, but I guess it's CLG that burns that bit brighter as they came out looking very strong with early pressure here in game 1 that Splyce eventually answered, but it was just too late.
The way that CLG beat Luminosity about 2 days ago or so was just so out of proportion that momentum seems to be transitioning in this game.
I would say so. Hurriwind seems like he can't miss right now, right? If this is basketball, you feed the hot hand. If this is some other sport, right, you give it to that person that can't miss right now. And Hurriwind, he seems to be the guy.
And honestly, the way Splyce is trying to start these games with this speed buff invades, if they can't get any sort of that early pressure, they just seem to fall and crumble because Homiefe adapted perfectly to that. He found his anti-speed buff, and then on top of that, he hit level 5 before Cyno, looking for that speed buff invade. Cyno was just kind of waiting for TheBest to make anything happen, but that final judgment from Hurriwind allowed Homiefe to run away wild.
Well, who do you think was the MVP from that game? For my money, it comes down to either Hurriwind or onto Homiefe. And Hurriwind might have edged him out a little bit, but Homie certainly had some highlight reel plays of his own.
It's like a 55-45 juggle between these two. I would rather flip a coin for those two at this point.
Then had to try and make that tough call because they both really did play out of their minds. And there's some questions, about this Splyce draft now that you got to ask, about do they want to go back to these picks? Were they the best ones? We'll see what they end up doing in game 2 totally. The desk can break down what just happened.
We can try. Tom and Taco here, post game 1, reflecting on Splyce and CLG. CLG take the game, and I just the Artio jungle. I don't know where to start here.
I think that was the big thing for me as well. Was I'm pretty sure we were both on the same page, assuming that this was going to be Nike in the jungle role for Cyno, and then Artio in the solo for Divios, but it was the classical mix and match instead for Splyce. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen unconventional drafts from these guys before, but there's a certain point where I almost feel that unconventional is not necessarily this spicy.
Yeah, I feel you. The unconventional, I am the poster boy for unconventional. I like the weird stuff when it makes sense. Now, if you wanted to do the 3 Guardian and the 2 attack characters, and you put the Athena in the jungle and the Artio somewhere else, I'm fine. I've talked how I don't like the Nike jungle either, but even that would be better than the Artio in my mind.
I liked everything except for the Artio jungle.
Same.
I feel that if they'd had a traditional assassin even, then you would have had somebody that could have breached that pathway, because one big issue that you can tell is very clear in the player damage numbers alone. Splyce just couldn't get close because you have a strong frontline, sure, between Aror and Divios, but there's no damage that's able to come forward. They're too busy just trying to absorb everything that CLG are throwing at them, that they went a little bit too late game, I feel, with this current composition, and that ultimately resulted in being unable to really return the same amount of damage numbers that we saw coming out of CLG.
And even if the idea was to go straight tanky, they were a little bit too far behind to do that. Players like Hurriwind were able to take advantage of Splyce's draft. 5-1-6. Shoutouts to that one. Fantastic stuff coming out from Hurriwind, and just able to continue on what he started last week. This player was putting on an MVP caliber performance, was exciting and just exploring different options, and here he is on the Thoth, a different character, continuing his reign of dominance.
I think Hurriwind got a little bit fed up with everybody assuming that he was going to only be the utility-based player. I mean, that's what we saw from him for so long, and now that he's finally started to break away from that and really come into his own as far as carrying games, I think that was an outstanding performance on the Thoth.
I've always said that Hurriwind does better when he's got a chip on his shoulder. Real talk. Back on when he was on Denial, everybody was saying that he wasn't good enough, and then he proved that he absolutely was good enough. Now we're up here saying, go the utility, go this, that, or third. And he's like, nah, dog, I can carry. Watch me do so. And Tyler's done just that. Fantastic stuff out of the center for game number 1. Game number 2.